Greetings, Australia, and welcome to Australian Bulletin, the place where we cut through political spin faster than a tradie's lunch break. Before we get into today's full-blown circus, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, with the way our leaders are performing, you'll want front-row seats to this ongoing comedy. Speaking of performances, tens of thousands of Australians just gave Canberra the show of its life, flooding the streets while our government pretended not to hear, humming the anthem to drown it all out. But here's the twist. Those crowds may have been onto something far bigger than anyone wants to admit. Picture this. You're at a house party completely out of control. Neighbors are fuming. The plumbing's on the brink. Parking is a nightmare, and the host is standing in the kitchen insisting everything's fine while the ceiling caves in. Welcome to Australian Bulletin, where even suggesting we turn down the music gets you branded the neighborhood villain. The March for Australia rallies over the weekend hit a raw nerve. Tens of thousands took to the streets, not to oppose immigrants themselves, let's be absolutely clear, but to question whether our infrastructure can keep up with the current pace of migration. And how did the government react? By brushing everyone off as racist and hoping the whole issue would vanish, about as quickly as my Monday morning motivation. Here's where it gets sharper. Since our borders reopened in 2022, Australia's population has ballooned by more than 1.5 million people. That's essentially the entire city of Adelaide dropped into the country in just 2 years. I'm no maths whiz, but even I can figure out that about 2,100 new arrivals every single day. That's an entire small town moving in daily. And apparently, pointing that out makes you the party buzzkill. Now for the real kicker, courtesy of the Institute of Public Affairs. In the 1990s, population growth accounted for only a third of Australia's economic growth. Fast forward to 2023, and it makes up a staggering 85%. That's not real growth. It's economic life support powered by people. Think of it like your local pub suddenly serving 5 times as many customers with the same kitchen, the same staff, and the same number of toilets. The beer runs dry. The wait is unbearable, and someone's bound to regret that bathroom line. That, in a nutshell, is Australia right now. Shadow Defense Industry Minister Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price came out swinging, and she didn't hold back. She stressed that most marchers turn up out of love for this country, not hatred of immigrants. She also dropped a truth bomb. Having concerns about immigration levels does not automatically make someone racist. Revolutionary idea, right? Price also highlighted something the government refuses to acknowledge, that many people raising concerns about migration actually come from migrant families themselves. It's like being told you can't criticize the food at a restaurant just because you've eaten there before. The logic doesn't stack up. But hey, nuance died the day politicians discovered sound bites. And it doesn't stop there. Shadow Immigration Minister Paul Scar warned that silencing legitimate debate on migration is like leaving the front door wide open for extremists to hijack the conversation. Brilliant strategy, isn't it? Ignore reasonable voices until only the unreasonable ones are left. What could possibly go wrong? Scar admitted that yes, some extremists did show up to these rallies, but so did Middle Australia. Complex social issues tend to draw people from across the spectrum. Concerned citizens alongside the unhinged. Who'd have thought? Meanwhile, the Albanese government's response has been about as refined as a toddler's meltdown. Several ministers dismissed the entire movement as racist and un-Australian, equivalent to diagnosing every headache as brain cancer. It's lazy, divisive, and conveniently sidesteps the real infrastructure challenges even their own experts acknowledge. Independent Senator Jackie Lambie probably offered the most honest assessment in this whole circus. She called the protest divisive, but also admitted the real issues can't be ignored. Lambie argued that past governments had welcomed migrants who didn't share core Australian values, citing polygamy and face coverings as examples. You might disagree with her framing, but at least she's engaging the debate instead of shouting racist and bolting for the exit. Independent ACT Senator David Pocock might have given the most sensible comment of all, remarkable, given how low the bar currently is. He said that while some protest incidents were unacceptable, the core concerns deserve attention. Imagine that nuanced thinking from a politician. Pocock pointed out that Australia has no genuine plan for handling the infrastructure load that comes with rapid population growth. We're not factoring in environmental costs, housing needs, or adequate social services. It's like booking a wedding for 50 guests, then inviting 500 without changing the venue. And then there's Minister for Multicultural Affairs, Andrew Giles, who doubled down on the government's "everyone's a racist" playbook. He claimed the protests weren't about immigration broadly, but specifically targeted migrants from non-Western countries. This is political discourse in 2024. Everything reduced to skin color, nothing about sustainability or planning. Here's the problem with that line. The protests actually included people from all sorts of backgrounds. In fact, some of the loudest voices questioning rapid migration came from recent immigrants themselves, people who know firsthand how critical proper integration and planning are. The government's approach here is like a nightclub bouncer calling every guest a troublemaker instead of checking whether the place has already hit capacity. It's not racist to warn that the roof might cave in if you keep cramming people inside. The most frustrating part? This shouldn't even be a left versus right fight. Concerns about infrastructure, housing, and sustainable growth ought to be bipartisan common sense. Instead, we got one side yelling racist and the other side fuming at being dismissed. The truth is, Australia does need migration to thrive. Our birth rate is below replacement. Our population is aging. Industries are crying out for skilled workers. But there's a massive difference between carefully managed migration with planning in place and the free-for-all that's happening now. What we're seeing today is the inevitable result of silencing debate for too long. People have taken their frustrations to the streets. When citizens feel unheard through normal political channels, they find other ways to make noise. Shocking, I know. The path forward isn't rocket science. It just requires politicians to stop managing their Twitter feeds and start doing their jobs. We need open conversations about sustainable migration levels. We need major investment in infrastructure to keep pace with growth. We need integration policies that help new arrivals settle successfully. And we need to stop pretending every concern about immigration is born of racism. Some are, of course, and those deserve condemnation. But many come from genuine love for this country and concern for its future. Dismissing those voices outright is political malpractice of the highest order. Right now, the government's tactic of ignoring the issue is about as effective as slapping a Band-Aid on a broken leg. These problems won't vanish just because politicians refuse to acknowledge them. So here's my challenge to our leaders. Drop the name-calling, start the planning, and treat Australians like adults instead of children throwing tantrums. Radical, I know, but it might actually work. And that's where things stand. A government that won't listen. Protesters smeared as extremists. Infrastructure buckling under bad planning. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion while the driver insists everything's under control. But what do you think? Are these concerns valid, or just prejudice in disguise? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like this video if you want more unfiltered takes on Australia's political circus. Make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell, because with politicians like ours, there's always going to be more chaos to cover. Until next time, this is Australian Report, keeping it real while everyone else keeps it fake.